Hello everyone, welcome to Armas, and this is my first impressions video of the Colt Anaconda in 44 Magnum and 44 Special. So let me go ahead and safety check before we begin. So as we can see, the cylinder is completely empty, and it is a 6-round cylinder. Now, just a few specs. So it is a 6-round revolver, and it is in 44 Magnum, 44 Special. And if we come to the front end here, we see that it has a front red ramp sight. And all the way here in the back, we have a rear fully adjustable sight, and that's for windage and elevation. Now the hammer is an exposed style hammer, and you can see it's very wide and has serrations for texturing. It also has a bright stainless finish, and let me give you different view here. Nobody's behind the camera. We just safety checked the firearm. And as you can see there, Rampant Pony, Colt, and it says Anaconda right there. So overall length is 13 inches in length, and it is a 6-inch barrel. And actually they say the specs are 6 to 6.99 inches. Now the grips are black Hogue rubber grips, and you can still see the back strap that's exposed, and I think that looks really classy. Now the unloaded weight is 53 ounces. So first and foremost, I just can't believe that I was able to purchase a Colt Anaconda. I was just elated when Colt decided to reintroduce their snake guns, and I really had my eye on the Colt Anaconda. And particularly because I am a hunter and I do love big bore revolvers. And this one here is in 44 Magnum. Let me talk a little bit about some of the features that make this an Anaconda. So if you look at the underlug here, this is a full length underlug. And one of the telltale signs that this is an Anaconda, and such as the same for the Colt Pythons, if you look at the top here, there is a ventilated rib, and this is a 6-inch barrel, and it looks really, really nice. And I think it takes full advantage of that ventilated rib and looks really, really nice. Now, according to Colt, they actually made the Anaconda stronger, and that's because of modern metallurgical improvements and advancements. So this is actually a stronger firearm than it was back in the day. And I'm so happy that Colt decided to keep it pretty much the same. There's just a few differences that are just practically indistinguishable. But another feature is, and I'm gonna try to actuate it from this side here, if you look at the cylinder release, you actually pull back and that frees up the cylinder. So that's a little bit different than the Smith & Wesson or a Ruger, right? So, and that doesn't really bother me because you can learn anything and practice and train it, and you can become pretty proficient in that. Now, for those of you interested, I do have my Wheeler Engineering professional trigger gauge here, and I'm gonna go ahead and actuate it there. And I have to use the inserts, and this is a flat trigger, and it has serrations. And I'm going to be using my snap caps from A-Zoom, as you can see there, and it says 44 Magnum. And it's a 6-pack, so that way I won't damage the firearm. And these are made out of aluminum, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to go ahead and open the cylinder here. And I'm going to drop these snap caps, and snap caps means they are not real cartridges. They're inert. There's nothing in them. They just have a little, I think it's a rubber, I don't know if you can see that or the camera's picking it up, but right here on the primer, you see a little bit of rubber there, and that just saves or actually protects the firing pin from any damage. And I'm going to go ahead and close it here. Now we're going to go ahead and try first and foremost in single action, because that's usually a lighter, shorter, crisp trigger pull. And I'm going to hold the revolver this way, oriented in this fashion. And we're already safety checked. So I'm going to pull straight to the back. And that broke at 5.43. So let me go ahead and reactuate it, and you can see that it's at 0 again. And we can see, actually, that's pretty good. That's 9 pounds and 0.8 ounces. So very good. So while we're here in comparison, this is my Smith & Wesson Model 57 in 41 Magnum, and this is a vintage firearm. And I'm going to go ahead and safety check so you can see there's nothing in the chambers, and you can see that the bores are countersunk. It also has a pin barrel, as you can see there. And if I'm not mistaken, this was manufactured back in the 80s, early 80s, I think 82 if I'm not mistaken. And you can also see that it has frame-mounted firing pin. So now I'm going to go ahead and load it. And these are spent casings that I used on the Model 57 video that we just aired or published just a few weeks ago. So I'm going to use these since I don't have any snap caps that are in 41 Magnum. And this brass is fire formed to this firearm. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and right now that I had the Colt Anaconda, I can tell that this is a lot lighter, more slim in profile. Wow, that double action feels amazing. But of course, this has a trigger job. Let me see, single action. Wow, even lighter. So let me go ahead and use my Wheeler Engineering professional trigger gauge, and I'm gonna go for 3 groups of trigger pulls. So we're gonna go in single action for the first time. It's very slick. Hold on, let me go ahead and reset it so you guys can see it was reset. Okay, and that's 3 pounds, 9.1 ounces. So now we're gonna test one time. Now it's at 0-0 in double action. So this is gonna be quite heavy. Let me see if we can do this. And that is 8 pounds, 5.1 ounces. So less heavy than the Colt Anaconda. So finally, what can I conclude about this firearm? So let me go ahead and safety check here one more time. So you can see that in the cylinder, we still have the maroon snap caps. So that means that this firearm is totally safe. Now, judging by the 9-pound double action trigger pull and the 5-pound single action trigger pull and the additional weight in the barrel end, I think this is going to be a very accurate shooter. I think it's going to be a great instrument for precision shooting. Now, do I know 100% for sure? No, we have to test it out in the range and see what results we get. But so far, that's what I can infer based on what I've seen here. The other thing is there is great quality from Colt that went into this firearm. So that is awesome. Now, what is coming up next? So next time we will have a range time, but I will continue my series of which bear gun is king. And I will be comparing the Colt Anaconda to the Smith & Wesson Model 57. So 41 Magnum versus 44 Magnum. And we'll see you guys for part 2 at the range. So I'm gonna fire a string of 3 shots in single action. And I'm gonna use precision shooting to the best of my abilities, and we're gonna use this bench rest, see how we do. And there's my thumb for comparison. So that's under 1 inch. Okay, not too bad. That is probably about maybe a 2.5, maybe 3 inch group. See, that's the size of my fist. So double action, not too bad at all. So those were the first 3 shots, and that's just a little over 1 inch. And that was with a Winchester 240 grain wide box in 44 Magnum. Not too bad for accuracy. So as we can see, from 7 yards, that's about the size of my fist, maybe smaller. So actually very good. So this is the Smith & Wesson Model 57 in 41 Magnum using Remington 200 grain soft points. Let's see how it does against 6 water jugs. Okay, so also total devastation, and you can see that was a very true shot right down the center. So the jug with the brown cap is actually a 6 jug. So we see actually those were the first 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. That was supposed to be the last jug. And this was using the Smith & Wesson Model 57 in 41 Magnum. So also very powerful, and obviously it has bear defense capabilities. So this will be the 6 water jug test. And there's nothing that's actually harder on a bullet than actually water. So we're gonna see how it does in reference to penetration. Now, usually the standard is about 6 jugs of water, and that's for bare defense capabilities. So let's see how the Colt Anaconda does with Winchester 240 grain 44 Magnum. So that was the first jug. The white cap was the third jug. And there's the 4th, 5th, and 6th was the blue cap. And it seems to be leaking. So we may have caught the round. Nope. Actually, it went through all 6. Wow, that is awesome penetration. And the blue is actually the 6th jug. And as you can see, that is a pretty well-centered hit. So that means the bullet was traveling in a straight path. So we have 4 reactive targets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the cinder block needs a little more abuse. So this will be the quick target acquisition using the Colt Anaconda and the 240 grain soft points. Okay, so I'm going to get close so you guys can see the action. Okay, we're going to try double action. Here we go. Okay, so this will be the hard barrier, and I'm going to try to stay in the action so you guys can see. Wow, this one actually hit right on the cross member beam right there, and it actually broke it and even cracked the back. So that is one tough round. So we're gonna try one more in just the wall. Even though it's compromising cracked, we'll see how it does. Okay, now that's total devastation. And so you can see both walls shattered. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's a fragment of the round. Yep, that certainly is. And that's what concrete does, or cinder block, to a round. That's the core. So I'm back from the range and I have some information to share with you. Now I use a table chart review so I can organize my thoughts and ideas. Now the way my table chart review works is there are 9 different categories, and for each category I do have a rating scale. Now the rating scale is as follows. There is 4, which is excellent, 3 equals good, 2 is for fair, and 1 is for below average. Now, you can accrue a total possible score of a 36, and that will be under the perfect circumstances. Now, the second category is accuracy, and we'll start with the Smith & Wesson Model 57. Now, we have video of this on a gun rest shooting 3 shots at 7 yards, perfectly touching 1 rag hole. So this is an excellent firearm for accuracy. Now, in all fairness, it does have a trigger job, and that is the way I purchased this firearm from an estate sale. So for accuracy, it received a 4. Now, the Colt Anaconda received a 3. Even though the 3 shots were almost touching, 2 were touching, and 1 was off just by a few centimeters, but nevertheless, I did expect better accuracy since I did gun rest it. Now, maybe with the right ammo, it would be awesome. But nevertheless, Smith & Wesson received a 4, Colt Anaconda received a 3. So for the second category, the model Smith & Wesson dominated. And for the third category, the Anaconda dominated. And the reason being, even though if I measure the group size for follow-up shots, they both did about the same. But the difference is that in double action, I can actually shoot the Colt Anaconda better, because when I stage it and I press the trigger, it is a fine trigger and it doesn't feel like the cylinder completely rolls on me really quickly, as does the Model 57. So I was able to shoot the reactive targets fairly easy and fairly quickly. And that's because I am not a revolver aficionado. I do have revolvers, but I'm not very well versed in them, but I shot really well with the Anaconda. So for accuracy, so for follow-up shots, Colt Anaconda won that bout. Now for aesthetics, they both received a 4. There is something about wood and steel that's just very attractive to me and to a lot of people. So when I take a look at the Model 57 and or the Colt Anaconda, I'm just really taken in by their beauty. So for that category, they both received a 4. Now for history, both of these firearms received a 4 because, for example, the Smith & Wesson or its platform has been televised in various movies, and they have both been used in competition successfully, also because of their pedigree. Now, the 7th category is energy, and in reference to energy, they both received a 4. And part of the reason they did, they went through 32 inches of clear ballistics gelatin blocks, and they both went through 6 jugs of water fairly easy. Now, in reference to the hard barrier test, the Smith & Wesson Model 57, which is a 41 Magnum with a soft point, went through just the first wall. Conversely, the Anaconda struck the cross-member beam and actually compromised the concrete block a little more. Had it gone right through the center where I intended to, I think the 44 Magnum in 240 grain soft point, I think it would have gone through both walls, but I'm not sure. Nevertheless, they both did really, really good in reference to energy. Now, in reference to capacity, they both received a 2 because they are 6-shot revolvers, and that is fair. Finally, the 9th category, reliability. Both of these revolvers received a 4. Now, we know that revolvers are inherently accurate, and what people mean by that is that the first 6 rounds, there is a high probability that they will all go off. There is almost no question about that. Now, they're not referring to, like, for example, 1,000 round torture test or a gauntlet test or an elemental test, but they are referring to the 6 rounds that are in the cylinder. If the revolver is maintained properly, they will go off. So reliability, they both received a 4. So the question on the table is, which bear gun is king? Now, before I reveal the king, I just want to say that both the Smith & Wesson Model 57 and the Colt Anaconda are manufactured with excellent craftsmanship. Both the 41 Magnum cartridge and the 44 Magnum cartridge have a high potential for penetration and energy. Now, with that being said, I would not feel undergunned with either of these revolvers. They are fine pistols or revolvers in their own right. Now, with that being said, if I had to use these revolvers in a bear defense situation, then more than likely I would have to shoot the revolvers in a double action manner. So then the question for Bear Gun King is, which revolver can I shoot better in double action? Now, the Model 57 has a trigger job and a very fine trigger, better than the Colt Anaconda. The problem with that is when I stage the trigger at the halfway point, I feel that the cylinder rotates so fast that I wind up firing the gun or the revolver before I intend to. Now, conversely, the Anaconda has such a smooth and consistent double action trigger pull that when I squeeze it at the halfway point and then finally squeeze the trigger, it is such a crisp and fine and accurate trigger pull that I can actually shoot the Colt Anaconda faster and more accurately in double action than I can the Model 57. Now you can see that when I'm addressing the reactive targets, I am shooting the Colt Anaconda 100% in double action, where conversely, I had to shoot the Model 57 in single action because I just couldn't get used to the trigger pull. So that is why I am naming the Colt Anaconda as Bear Gun King. Thanks for watching.